Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
Hey, what's up? And this is Jack, Chief Lead Generation Officer at salesbread.com. Jeremy, what are we talking about today?
All right. Yesterday, I did a webinar. We were talking about data, a lot of data, open tracking, click tracking, bounce rates, all those sort of things. And we figured that's been quite some time since we've done a benchmark episode. Like, what should you aim for? What should be your open rate? What should be your reply rate? What is it these days, right? It's
And more
not the
importantly,
80% reply rate of the 5 years ago kind of thing, right?
that's true. What I was saying was more importantly, are you doing better than the next cold emailer? Very important for your email status, your email swagger.
Your ego.
Yeah. Jeremy, am I crazy? Is there something at the bottom of your screen like maybe
It's just the computer. I don't mind. It
Now I
look
see
cool,
you.
I think. Yeah.
Oh, it's giving me like an aneurysm or something.
All right.
Okay. Well,
That
we're
wasn't
gonna
his
dive
secret
in.
word, by the way. Anyway.
True. Longtime listeners will know what we're talking about. But
Right.
before we dive into the benchmarks, a word from our sponsor today. Most B2B companies lack the time or expertise to turn cold prospects into qualified leads that want to talk to you. At salesbread.com, we bring you one lead or booked appointment per day. Just head over to salesbread.com, fill out the little contact form, and get in touch if you want some professional help with your lead gen. I want to hear from you if you've got an exciting product that the world just doesn't know about yet. Okay, salesbread.com.
All right, I'll be short. QuickMail.io, best call outreach platform on the universe. Go and check it out yourself. We're really good at email, and we have a free auto warmer for amazing deliverability or keeping your deliverability up.
Yep, and if you don't know what an auto warmer is and you haven't tried it, you're going to want to do two things right now. First, check out the auto warmer episode a few plays back.
It's hard to count.
And then sign up for that quick mail free auto warmer. There's not a whole heck of a lot of downsides, as you will learn. All right, so with that, tell me how I'm doing with cold email, Jeremy. What's the state of our benchmark stats these days?
Well, how about we start with, what metrics are we talking about? There are quite a few metrics in cold outreach, some that are more important than others, some are like more vanity metrics than other.
Okay.
Which one should we start with, you reckon?
What's the worst metric to pay attention to?
Ooh, good question.
I have some ideas.
I'm tempted to say open rate, honestly, but I know you will disagree with that. I just think it's like, subscribers on YouTube, or, it's a little bit on the vanity side kind of thing. Like, I don't really care as long, is that 80, 60%, maybe? I don't know. I'm tempted to say this one. I'm tempted to say open rate.
Okay. I do disagree with that because we live and die with opens. Sending cold emails, we can't make money if people don't see what we have to say. But for me, if you are 99% of campaigns, why are you caring about click-through rates? If they don't reply, they're not taking the action you want, unless you find yourself in that really unique situation where it's a self-serve checkout that really the prospect will do it from there, which is very, very rare. You encounter this one out of 100.
I did recently, actually. Yeah, but you're right. It's very rare. And you're right.
Wait,
most of the
were
time.
Were you on the checkout side or the sending side?
No, I one of the campaign on QuickMail is performing like phenomenally well, and all they do is just basically send me a link.
And that's beautiful, but it's one out of 100.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, 100% right. Most of the time, if you do a campaign like that, you're gonna fall. It's like sort of like falling on a banana peel, kind of thing. And anyway, right. So to the point. All right. What would be cool? So bad.
It's Friday. We usually podcast on Thursdays for
That's true,
Thursday
actually.
people, but we've got a Friday energy going on where we're just sort of. So, Jeremy, let's get straight to it. No fluff. Tell us, benchmark us. Yeah.
Right, benchmark, open rates. So as I was saying, we were doing a webinar yesterday, and one of the things that was cool is I looked at other benchmarks, but the benchmark I could find was from MailChimp, and it was basically around open rates, clicks, even click-throughs, and unsubscribe and bounces. And I thought like, oh, that's interesting because that's not quite exactly the same as a cold email outreach. We have
Right.
different things. We have much better open rates, but we also have much worse bounce rates. Not surprisingly enough.
As we'll find out.
Yeah.
Sure. So, do we need to know anything about where we are with MailChimp style email marketing bench rates, or should we just kind of ignore
I
them,
think we can
or is
just
it worth
split it out.
comparing?
Yeah, we can just split it out. So MailChimp said about 21% open rate. I've done some math or extracted some data on QuickMail, and we are about more like 44% open rates, and it's like the total average. Well, there are some key interesting metrics, honestly, that I got out of looking at the stats. Like, for example, on QuickMail, so I can't tell for anyone else, and this is only purely for this year, we have a third of the campaigns that have more 60% or more open rates. So usually Jack and I are considering 60% open rate as a sort of like limit where it starts to get okay or good, right? With 80% on plus being more like on the exceptional side or like the really good side. And then what you can think of is if you go below 40, then you're entering the danger zone, and under anything under 20, you're basically ending up in spam, and you may be lucky with some people checking out their spam or stuff like that, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're dead
Okay.
basically.
Okay. So let's crystallize this. So if you're 20% or below,
Yeah,
you're in the
it's over.
danger zone.
Oh, it's over.
Something is wrong.
Yeah, 20% below, you're probably ending up in spam already. It's over. Game over.
Okay. So what was the next threshold? 20 to
Next
40%?
threshold is 40%, 40%, 20
Yeah.
to 40%. It's a danger zone. You really need to do some drastic actions right away. That could be, making sure you have the auto warmer turned on and you disable your outreach. But basically, you should
Scrubbing your
stop.
list, right? You're bouncing too much. Could be.
Well, yeah, all of those sort of things potentially.
Yeah.
And then after that, once you're in that 40 to 60, it's like it's not good. You need to pay attention to it. And then after
Can we
60, I
say
think you're good.
average? You want to say 40 to 60 is
Yeah,
average?
40 to 60 is
Okay.
pretty average. It's not good for me. I will say mediocre, but I have a harsh standard. And then I would say if you get 60% and more, then you start being like, okay, open rate may not be a problem. And 80% and more is like, why are we talking about open rates, right? It's like, it's no non-issue, right?
Yeah. So at 80% opens, it very, very likely means you also have a great response rate, probably north of 20%, because you can't really get to an 80% open.
So you're
unless,
absolutely right. And this is something that we should tell the listener as well. Our data on QuickMail, we do it in a way that if you actually do get a reply, but that prospect was not detected as having opened the email, will still mark them as open. And one of the reasons for that is because if someone replied to you, they must have opened it, right? And so we're trying to get more accurate in terms of the open rate, and so therefore we will effectively modify it. So you're right, if you got like a 20% reply, and of course you have like a good deliverability, then you will effectively reach those 80%.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I was almost going at it the other way. So you were saying that the more people reply, the more people that normally wouldn't have been marked as opened, actually QuickMail tags them as open.
That's
But I
correct.
was thinking, because engagement level is so important for good deliverability, I was thinking that you cannot get an 85% open rate unless you have quite a lot of people engaging with your email, like replying.
That's
So
right too.
maybe this is a follow-up episode, but I would wager that there aren't a whole lot of campaigns with 85% opens that don't have a 20% or better reply rate. Just
Yeah.
because if you can get eight out of 10 people to look at your message, that's when it's actually not so difficult to achieve a 20% response rate.
Yeah, I was
Hard
looking
to
at
do. Yeah.
during as part of the webinar, I looked at one of the last campaign that I have running, which basically you helped me, Jack, running as well. So we are at 82.5% open rates and 17% reply rate. So it's a good campaign. It's a really good campaign
Yeah. So, okay. So we'd be in the excellent category with
for open.
opens, and we'd be in the above average category for reply rate, right?
Yeah, I will. Yeah,
Cool.
that's definitely what I would say. But although we haven't
Okay.
talked about the reply rate yet.
So let's stroll down the world of reply rates. Benchmark us. What's good? What's bad? What do we need to be afraid of? How do we know if we're doing better than our neighbor?
Okay, cool. So we've seen that for the open rate, you have to think in 20s. So it's like 20, 40, 60, 80, right? So it's not really that difficult. For the reply rate, it's slightly different. Let me think. Let me just grab quickly my conclusion as well about the reply rate or what we have. So for the reply rate, it's going to be more of a long tail type of graph where you actually the higher your reply rate, the harder it is, right? So it's almost like that inverted logarithmic type of curve, right? So at the beginning, like pretty much everyone can have zero open reply rate. It's pretty easy. Although I wonder if it would we should try that, like try to have a 0% open rate on 100 people you contact. It may even be hard actually to get, but anyway, point is that usually you got a lot that don't have a lot of replies, and the more reply that gets, the harder it becomes. Like you got less and less people who actually can put up those sort of replies, right?
Okay. So not terribly surprising on that front, I
No.
suppose. Right. Okay.
So here's how I will see it. I will say this is more of a 10 game this time. So we have like the 20 game for the open rate, like 20, 20, 20, or 20, 40, 60, 80. For the reply rate, it's way more the below 10%, the 10 to 20%, and the 20% and above. That's pretty much how I like to see things. And for me, is anything under 10% means you still need to work a lot on your campaign. Your campaign is not getting, it's like product market fit, but it's like campaign market fit, type of thing, right?
This is 0 to 10%.
0 to 10%. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think you're there.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to sell space goats to aliens on Mars or something. It's just not
Absolutely.
working.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm
totally.
following you. I'm
Totally,
following you.
Jack. The 10 to 20%, I think it's where you want to be. And I would say toward the 10%, you may want to keep on iterating on it to bring it more to the 15%. I say the 15 is sort of like medium. And then if you are on the 20%, then I think you're good. You don't really need to iterate that much. I think usually the ratio between the effort you put in versus the actual, increase in ratio may not necessarily always be worth, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. When you're close to the 20% reply rate mark, the battle may be, how do you put a few more prospects into that sequence without hurting deliverability?
You're
Then
absolutely
it's
right.
kind of like you've arrived. So I tell people that are launching outbound campaigns for the first time that you want to compare yourself to the Wright brothers, how they built their first airplane that took flight. They did not start with a 777 engine strapped to
Did they not?
a 30 a 300-ton aircraft. They started with, yeah, like balsa wood and canvas and no engine, and they just saw if it got a little bit of lift. That's the metaphor. You just want to take 100 prospects, just put something out
Yeah.
there, see if you get some response, and then as you get to this point that we just talked about, this 20%, it means you're ready to bolt on the extra wings and the faster engines and the bigger fuel tanks, because now you've got a winner. It's just about getting that delivered to more people. That's your next mission, I think.
Yeah, and to be absolutely fair, I think that's what a lot of people are doing. The distribution that I discussed about the, the long tail stuff are the number of campaigns, but for the same person, they could actually do one campaign less than 10%, a second campaign maybe again less than 10%, and maybe the third one is in the 10%, right? So that just show that there's a lot more experiment probably, and there are a lot more experiment that have low reply rates before actually eventually getting more and more replies. So don't lose all hopes. In terms of data, that did look like we have 50% of the campaigns that we have total that actually are less than 10%, right, in terms of reply rates. So if you do more than 10%, you're in theory getting better than half of the campaign trying that's been tried since the beginning of the year on quick mail. The interesting thing for that I find is like we still have like 25% of the campaign that are between that 10 to 20% reply rate mark. So to me, it seems like there is about like a quarter of all the campaigns on quick mail that are working in terms of getting reply rates. And if you want to see those more exceptional, more than 20%, there are 20% of those campaigns. So it's like 1/5 of the campaign that actually perform better than 20%. And I think that's impressive. Actually, that was probably the most surprising metrics for me that I found.
What's that? That there was
A fifth,
20%.
every 5
Yeah.
campaigns perform better than 20%, which is pretty badass. But at the same time, we have a lot of agencies, and some agencies have really repeatable processes, so they will always end up in a certain categories, and so therefore they will have lots of campaign that performs around wherever they are, right? So I think that's
Right.
really cool stuff.
Yeah. I agree. Thanks for sharing those benchmarks, because it isn't necessarily easy to know where you are, because you're usually not sharing these campaigns externally, and the only thing you can compare yourself to is how you performed last week. So now, um, if you're getting better than 10% reply rate, you are in the um, upper half of performers. And
That's
if you
right.
are north of 40% opens, then you are average to anything north of that would, again, make you in the better half of that group. So just now where the industry stands, I suppose.
Hey, I also wanted to say that those benchmarks are important because they do evolve. Like if you would have asked me 3 years ago what I think it should be in terms of reply rate, I say anything under 20%, you need to iterate. And I think nowadays, the sort of like level actually went down. Like everything above 10% is considered good now, where before in the past it was like, well, you're not there yet at all, right?
Hmm. Which to me is surprising, Jeremy. I was thinking that thanks to better spam filters, the lower performing emails would have been no longer getting through, thus making the good cold emails fewer and far between, so that they are more worthy of a response.
But let me tell
I'm
you the answer
Yeah,
to this one, Jack. In
hit me.
2017, when I started and use obviously QuickMail for my own needs, I received very often emails that say, "Oh, I'm very sorry, I didn't reply to your email. Extremely sorry." And then they start like, "Thank you for your
Mm,
perseverance," and so on. It's like, yeah, it's cool. It's just a follow up. And nowadays, everyone kind of know there is automation, and so they don't feel the urge or the pressure to answer, and at least certainly not the reciprocity, unless you put a lot of personalization. And I think that's why the mass education actually made that less and less people are just replying, even for your campaign could be potentially better. You didn't need a
mm.
certain level to reach 20%. Now you do need a certain level
Now
to
you
reach
do.
20%, right?
And now maybe we're seeing personalization get moved up closer to where deliverability stands, in terms of where everyone sees this as something essential to
Mm,
good
mm, mm.
campaigns, so that you do uh, try and stand out from everyone's perceived automation that I do not have to reply to. It's not a human on the other end unless you add personalization or say something so specific. It's really hard for someone to imagine this was sent to 10 other people,
That's right. That's
which is
right.
possible too, even today. Okay, Jeremy, anything else on your list of notes for benchmarks in
So there are
2021?
two things I still want to talk. One, which I don't necessarily have the stats, but I want to get your take on it, which is the positive reply rate in terms of to see if your recommendation has changed. I remember in the past you were like 50-50 if you don't, get
Yeah.
half of it and half of it. Don't
Yeah.
spoil it right yet. And the last stats I'd like to talk about is really briefly the bounce rate as well.
Okay. So, Jeremy, the answer to your positive to negative reply ratio is, are you making money with your campaign?
That's the
That's the
Joker
simplest way
card.
to put it.
Hop,
It,
Joker.
it is, but it's also important to keep that in mind. Like, that's what we're here for 95% of cases. We're here to meet the right people that are going to help advance our business, our career. And so you need to make sure you're getting a certain number of positive replies each week in order to move you closer to your monthly, weekly, quarterly, annual goals. You can stop right now and say, the positive replies coming in, is that enough to put us where we want to be? If that answer is no, you're not there yet. If the answer is yes, great job, carry on, try and keep the same or better results next week. Now, ratios, I still think 50-50 is a decent place to start with. You don't want more than half of the replies coming in to be negative. It generally tells you you're doing something wrong, or probably more likely, there's a benefit you can swap out that's better, and there's a call to action that you can drop in that offers more value. So instead of saying, hey, let's jump on a call, it could be, let me do something for you, let me send you something, let me insert thing that would be nice to do.
Or your
Um,
targeting may actually be a bit off in terms of the attributes you're looking at, right?
that's brilliant, Jeremy. Yeah, I didn't even consider that. And
I thought of you when I thought of
yeah, that's
that.
awesome. Okay.
Cool.
Yes, absolutely. Take a better look at who you're sending these messages to. Do they
Mm,
have the budget? Do they have the need? Are they really close to the 7 other people that
yeah.
just said, yes, I want to pay for this? And then hopefully that will get you better than a 50-50 response rate, but a positive response.
Cool. And so the last metric that we could have a quick look at is the bounce rate. And one of the thing is people ask me like, what bounce rate, is should I have? Well, ideally is 0, right? That's what you should have. But I compile the data so you can have also an idea of where you stand compared to other
I
people.
almost don't want this to be shared because I know what it is, and it's not where I want the cold email world to be. I think it's got room for improvement.
Okay, so we'll probably
Yeah.
table that one and I'll come back with other things because I think there is some correlation here that I can apply. Like, for example,
Okay.
what's your open rate to your bounce rate, or what's your, reply rate to your bounce rate, and those sort of
Yeah.
correlation. And then maybe we could have
Okay,
a quick
but go ahead.
follow up.
Our listeners are curious. What's
But
the
here
average?
is my recommendation, and it's slightly higher on quick mail, not by much, but it's still a bit higher. Um, but I would say you should definitely aim for absolutely less than 9% bounce rate. If you got 9% or more, you're definitely going straight in the ditch. And ideally, you should aim for 4% because it's almost impossible to do 0 unless, well, actually, even if you're actually doing for just the valid emails, but that's what I would say.
No,
That hasn't changed.
I can say yes to that. So first of all, can you imagine how would you get 9% bounce? That would require you to send to more than just valids. And I haven't recommended that in 3 years. You
Sure,
can't
but
do
we're
it.
talking about benchmark, right? Not everyone is using our
Then it's
recommendations.
it, so then those that are getting 9% bounce rate and worse haven't gotten up to speed on the cold email best practice. And even though you find yourself in the average, that might mean that you are average in terms of in America, it would probably mean you're overweight. It's not necessarily like a good place to be. The cold email community needs to get under 5%. How do you do that? You scrub your list and
100%,
only
yeah, I
send to
agree.
valids. You can't even aim for 9% because you don't know. At that point, you'd have to be taking a certain level of risk that you might get 16% with that. I just only send to valids, even though a lot of folks are beyond the 5% and below metric, where I think you start to get to a deliverability impact zone. So, full stop, that benchmark is 2 years old. It's not, but it feels like it is.
So yeah, it's a trigger thing for Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that's such an easy thing we can all do to get better opens and more replies. Just
But
send to a valid
honestly,
list.
I do agree. You should definitely have less than 4%, right? And
Yeah,
if you're finding yourself toward the higher hand, like 9, 10% kind of thing, you should definitely stop sending to risky emails and try to reduce that or review your process. There's something that is wrong in the way you're
yeah,
either collecting them or either the way you're cleaning them. Um,
yeah. And just keep in mind, you're doing it the hard way if you're getting 9% bounce rate. It means you're going to struggle with deliverability faster. Um, it means all the personalization and careful copywriting you include won't be seen by a lot of your prospects, which is a shame. And it, you'll thank yourself when you upgrade to the 5% and below. I
that
promise you,
means
it
more
took me a long
leads,
time to figure
right?
that out.
That means more leads. But
Oh,
here's the
yeah.
interesting thing is like if we go back to MailChimp, they actually have like 0.2%. But it kind of makes sense. They're opt-in, right?
They're up there.
So it's like
Sure.
opt-in things, and you guys are not opt-in. So it's going to be hard to reach the 0.2%. That said, I don't think there is an excuse for the 10%, right? So
Yeah. I don't even think it's possible. I expect 2 or 3% bounces
I've
when I
seen a
send
40% at some point. I was like, holy hell.
440.
Yes, 40. I
That's
was like,
crazy. Yeah, don't do that.
man, you need to change that straight away.
Don't do that. But you're listening to the podcast, so you are in the close to the upper echelons of cold email best practice. You are going to be sending. You're listening to
It
this. I'm
means
talking to
it
you.
means nothing,
5%.
Jack, because at the end of the day, it's like the doctors, they know that smoking is bad for your health. They still do, right? But anyway, if you want to know more and become like the doctor of cold email, like without spending the
Doctor
8 years in
Cold.
university, what should they do, Jack?
They should go to course.quickmail.io and check out our masterclass, all on cold email. I show you how we do our list building at SalesSpread. I show you sales research, figuring out what you need to say, who you need to send the emails to. Jeremy gives you way more knowledge on deliverability than you thought was out there, so that you do find yourself in the 80% and above. You get 2 modules on cold email copywriting, so you know what calls to action, and you can look over our shoulder while we do personalization on random people on LinkedIn and other people's websites. That it's it has everything to the point where you're handling the replies and you have a team and tools that outsource and automate all the stuff that takes a lot of hard work in cold email. So it's really like soup to nuts how to get to that top 1% where you actually aren't doing the grunt work, if you will, and you're just kind of on the receiving side of good warm leads every week. No Google ad budget, no Facebook ad budget, no confusing Instagram posts that are hard to track. It's just make money with cold email. Here's how,
And it works.
and it works. All right,
All right.
check us out. Course.quickman.io. Jeremy, thanks for establishing the benchmarks in cold email 2021.
2021. That's right. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks.